It is a special delight for all of us to be here tonight and to be part of the annual calendar private sector banquet of the Chamber. I want to thank the President, Mr. Damian Hobson, for the kind invitation extended to me to make some remarks this evening. And although he came before me and tried to lead me where I shall not go, I shall stick to my prepared text. But I want to commend him for his leadership over the last year plus that he has been at the helm, nearing his 2-year tenure. And he has, during the time, had the difficult challenge to deal with many issues in the socio-political landscape. I believe he did a commendable job, and therefore from my team to your team, we say congratulations for the part you play in the development of St. Kitts and Nevis during this period of your tenure. I commend you too and your speech, and for the areas in which the Chamber has shown interest, and we certainly would want to take you up and those several areas in which you outline, and there are some more which we have, which we would want to add to those elements which you have put forward. The government of Team Unity, of course, is a relatively new one. We are just under 6 months. At times when we hear people speak about us, we wondered whether we've been there for 6 years and no election had been called. We have a 5-year contract with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and we are indeed humbled by that commitment, that opportunity, that confidence which the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have placed in us. And we will collectively deliver on the commitments and the undertakings and the promises which we made as a Team Unity movement. Team Unity was given a chance to lead this country on the premise of what the President described as our fresh start and the mantra, a fair share for all. And of course, the fair share for all really was pregnant with the meaning, because we were saying to everyone, those who were forgotten, those who are at the periphery of society, that we believe that there were ample opportunities for the building of the equitable and just society in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have no doubt that the Fresh Start agenda will require innovative thinking and a recalibration of many of the norms and systems that operate within the public and private sectors. And you, Mr. President, address some of those. I submit that stronger public-private partnerships are critical parts of the answer to stimulating inclusive growth, maintaining macroeconomic stability, and managing the high costs of doing business, creating decent jobs, and enhancing social cohesion as part of our bid to reduce the scourge of crime and the perennial challenge of poverty in our midst. I have gathered many opinions while I was on the campaign trail, and I continue to gather even more since I've taken up the office of Prime Minister. One of the things that remains constant is the fact that all persons with whom I have interacted are in agreement that the private sector is an essential pillar of the economy and must be rather a significant contributor to the economic achievements of this nation over the years. We therefore welcome the opportunity to build stronger public private sector partnerships. Indeed, the partnership between the public and private sectors has kept St. Kitts and Nevis afloat at a very challenging period in our history. Yes, with respect to the statistics which are available on our country's economic performance, I am pleased to report that for the first quarter 2015, the indications are that the economic growth is trending positively, and our own in-house calculations at the Ministry of Finance indicate that for the first 3 months, January to March, the economy grew by an impressive 7.8%. This is showing an even better result than what was achieved during the same period last year, when the Ministry of Finance estimated a 4.8% growth for the first 3 months of 2014. Growth in the construction sector for the first quarter 2015 has been estimated at 12.2%. The tourism sector, you would have heard, grew by 11.4%, reflecting increased activity in comparison to a 7.8% growth during the period of 2014. The main contributor to the strong performance was stay-over arrival, which grew by 12.9%, largely reflecting increased airlift and more bodies, of course. The cruise ship passenger arrivals also grew by 27.2%, consistent with an 11.7% increase in the number of cruise ship calls. Output in the manufacturing sector was pegged at 3.7 for the first quarter of 2015. And I'm sure the president there, Jose Rosa, would be able to give some details with respect to the trend for the first quarter in manufacturing. It is expected that value added created within the construction and tourism sectors, coupled with continued improvements in the performance of the manufacturing sector, will contribute to the overall growth in the economy. The Ministry of Finance projects a growth rate of about 7% for the year 2015. Of course, it is still early. Inflationary pressures decreased during the first quarter of 2015 as the Consumer Price Index recorded a 1% decline compared to 2014, when the index went up by 0.7. With the anticipated impact of the removal of VAT from food, from medicine, and funeral expenses, coupled with lower fuel prices, the rate of inflation is expected to remain relatively low in 2015. Turning briefly to the fiscal position of the country. The fiscal operations of the central government resulted in an overall surplus of $98 million for the first quarter of 2015. This compares very well to the $42.3 million surplus achieved in the comparable period of 2014. Similarly, the primary surplus of $103.2 million was realized at the end of March 2015. This was $55 million, or 115% better than the surplus that was recorded for the comparative period in 2014. The overall fiscal outturn was largely attributed to higher tax, which some people in the private sector don't like to pay, and non-tax receipts, which were tempered by an increase in capital expenditure. Further, I wish to confirm to this gathering that the gathering and the nation, that the government remains vigilant in the management of the national debt, and at the end of March 2015, the debt stood at 1.7 billion. Still high, but trending downwards. The prospects of a buoyant economy in 2015 and 2016 are indeed encouraging news for all of us. However, it must not be seen as a signal for us to relax and become complacent, as there are many challenges that confront us as a small island developing state. Equally important at this point in our national development is the need for us to chart a course towards a better and stronger St. Kitts and Nevis, where the public and private sectors are able to work in harmony along with civil society to achieve long-lasting growth and sustainable development for the benefit of all our people. In aspiring to this ideal, we expect to build an excellent partnership with the private sector based on trust. We expect that businesses will recognize the importance of being philanthropic, good corporate citizens that willingly comply with the laws and pay their fair share of taxes. These taxes provide critical public revenues that are essential for providing public goods and services. This unity administration is committed to use all the resources available within the public sector to create the necessary enabling environment to make it possible for all businesses to prosper and to attract a steady stream of investment necessary for sustaining growth over the long term. We believe that St. Kitts and Nevis is destined to become a nation where the private sector is the source of decent jobs for our people, a driver of infrastructure development, investment, and innovation. In the meantime, my administration recognizes the need to ensure that we maintain an environment that is conducive to growth and the expansion of the private sector, particularly the development of small and medium-sized enterprises. In this regard, we propose to immediately adopt the 2015 to 2019 strategic plan to improve St. Kitts and Nevis's doing business rankings and put the implementation of this plan in motion later this year. The targeted areas for improvement will address the question of insolvency, enforcing contracts, getting credit, and of course, ease in registering property. The Ministry of International Trade and Commerce should be taking lead in this initiative. My government will work in partnership with the private sector to identify other pressing impediments to doing business in the Federation. This will help to unleash the potential of the private sector to develop more innovative business models, integrate technology, and of course, embrace green initiatives. There are many areas for collaboration and strengthening the partnership between the public and private sectors. For immediate focus, the Team Unity Administration desires a stronger partnership to achieve sustainable growth and development. More specifically, at this time, we would want to forge a stronger partnership in terms of improving tax compliance, increasing productivity, achieving energy and food security, reducing crime, restoring credibility and confidence in our citizenship by investment program, and of course in our country as a whole. The worrisome and puzzling phenomenon in the Federation is the fact that for some time now, we have a banking system reportedly flourishing with money, and yet there are continuous reports that the credit to the private sector is sluggish. This is a situation that must not be allowed to persist. I believe that there are sufficient intellectual, creative, and skillful persons within the private and public sectors who can study this phenomenon carefully and effectively devise a plan that will help to move these critical resources to productive uses. For example, the building of another cruise pier. So let us take on this challenge with the ECCB. I want to turn to the matter of PEP, because we cannot entertain a conversation about sustainable growth without giving consideration to the issues of unemployment and underemployment of labor. The private sector, as an engine of economic growth, must play a fundamental role in our nation's quest to eradicate poverty and promote an inclusive society. If we are able to create the private sector-led engine of growth, then there will be no need for the public sector to continue to support such a massive PEP program that is currently operating with an approximated 3,000 persons. As of the 8th July 2015, PEP has been carried at the cost of EC $141 million. This, in my view, and in the view of the Cabinet and the IMF, is unsustainable. And our small population size dictates that we should be more focused on maximizing the productivity of our human capital. I am open for suggestions and proposals from the private sector regarding the public-private partnership initiatives around training and permanent employment for the PEP workers. Some businesses have had PEP employees for more than a year, some for 2 years, being paid for from the public purse. We must discuss the impact this has had on your business, but importantly, on the public sector. We must then work together so that the private sector can play the vital role of creating jobs, as job creation is one of the main drivers of economic growth. When people are working, they have disposable income to consume goods and services, and in turn, they generate economic activity. Jobs and consumer spending go hand in hand. I want to address the matter of public safety and security, which has been brought to the fore in the address by the President. Like all of you here, the issue of crime is on our minds, and in fact should be on the minds of all of us. Team unity is about a prosperous nation. And in our view, a prosperous nation must be a safe nation. A prosperous nation is also a wholesome nation, a nation where the highest values are taught and practiced. These core beliefs are spelled out in our Constitution. We need all parties to engage in the fight for the soul of our nation. The churches, the businesses, the homes, the NGOs, the lodges, the schools, the hotels, working together must redeem our country. All of our citizens must understand and believe that this nation was established on a belief in the Almighty God and the inherent dignity of each individual. And we must continue to teach these values in every home, in every classroom, and in our church and business places. This core fundamental belief is the foundational principle behind the respect for life. Our value system is under attack, giving birth to the retaliatory gang violence we are seeing today. We know that St. Kitts and Nevis is, up to this minute, a safe place to live, to conduct business, to go to school, and to visit. We will not allow those who choose to live a life of crime destabilize, tarnish, or disrupt the normal, peaceful living in our beautiful federation. Over the last few months, we have had ongoing public safety initiatives designed to address specific public safety concerns. The police, the Defense Force, the customs, and the public have done an excellent job in the maintenance of peace and security. The statistics tells us that overall major crime is down, and this is good news. In fact, major crimes are down 33% over the period January to June 2015 compared to last year, 2014. And when we use the comparative period January to June 2013 to the current time frame, major crimes went down 55% relative to 2013. So this is the good news. The bad news is that there has been a spike in homicides and gun-related crime due mainly to gang and incidences of retaliatory violence. We, the government, and the private sector can and must do more to stop this. We thank the Chamber for being a willing partner in the fight for public safety and for its efforts to create the more wholesome society about which we are offered. I am encouraged by the performance and the tenacity of our acting Commissioner of Police, and I think I saw him here earlier tonight. I would want again to compliment him and his high command for displaying the highest attributes of teamwork at this time and a renewed sense of optimism and commitment to public safety. We are certainly, in my view, getting more from the police and from the security forces as a whole, both on the island of St. Kitts and also on the island of Nevis. Our men and women in uniform are going beyond the call of duty to keep us safe, and we must let them know how much we appreciate their services. The Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force has completed and presented to Cabinet a 6-point plan of action to reduce homicides and violent crimes in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This plan was presented to and fully endorsed by the Cabinet, and it has been cleared for full implementation by the police. The main action points of the plan include crime prevention, intelligence-led policing, targeted operations, community engagement, collaboration strategies, and continuous improvement and administration. And indeed, I was heartened to hear the Chamber President tell us tonight that the police has already reached out and extended an invitation to meet with that group. Of course, since the official presentation of the plan to Cabinet and my presenting it at the last press conference, the High Command has been on radio, attempting to engage the public with respect to critical elements of the plan. It is a crime plan and all elements of the plan, of course, cannot be disclosed. But we are satisfied that it has had the input of some of the best policing experts anywhere around the world. Indeed, just today, a friend sent to me a similar proposal coming out of Jamaica. Jamaica now attempting to deal with the reality that it has had over 600 homicides for the year to date. And their minister released a crime-fighting plan which had similar elements to those from St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are fighting a common enemy. Indeed, the Caribbean region as a whole is one of the, most severe in terms of the homicidal rates of any region. So that is a challenge which all of us, or many of us, are attempting to come to grips with. And yes, some ask about the crime plan. Another crime plan. Yes, another crime plan is the answer. What will be different about this plan is that this plan will have sustained implementation. The criminals need to know that we will not let up. Our resolve will be strong, and we will not faint from the task. The soul of our nation, in my view, is at stake. And we will continue to do what must be done to bring peace and safety to all people. So you will continue to see more random searches of vacant buildings. In fact, vacant buildings, be they commercial or residential, are often used as hideouts for criminals and their loots. You will hear about and see stakeholders working together continuously to the Criminal Justice Strategic Board. We have new technology that will help us solve the crime, taking the criminals off the street. And we have new ballistic equipment, including specialized microscope and a new forensic lab to ensure the highest quality evidentiary standards. We have experts here working now from the United Kingdom, working with our police, and more are expected to come in the upcoming weeks. These proven experts will assist our High Command in our crime-fighting efforts. There is much that has been done by my government and these deserve positive review and support. The short point is that the government has received a plan, and the government has committed all the resources that are required. We will make those resources available for the implementation of the plan. It will not lie on anyone's desk or anyone's jaws. It will be put into practice. And we are appealing for the good support of the members of the chamber to do even more than they have done in the past in providing tangible support to the police and all agencies of crime fighting in the country. For its part, this government will leave no stone unturned in the fight to make St. Kitts and Nevis the safest and most secure place to live. I want to turn quickly to the matter of the citizenship program, since this, of course, is an important area, and the Chamber President told you it was critical to the economic performance of St. Kitts and Nevis. My government inherited a very difficult situation, which I need not repeat. Suffice it to say that when we came to office on February 18th, well, in fact, the 22nd, the government was sworn in, the Attorney General and I on the 18th. So when we came to office in late February 2015, we met a CBI program that basically was in ICU. Unknown to many of you, that the international community had taken very strong decisions with respect to reprimanding the outgone administration for the performance in relation to this program. When we got into office and there were piles of boxes that were there with people's application waiting to be signed, and they couldn't be signed because the international powers had dared the outgone Prime Minister to proceed at his own risk. They were there. The international community had taken a decision that the program in St. Kitts and Nevis was not fit for purpose. When we came to office, we found letters written by the Secretary of State, John Kerry, to the former Prime Minister. And in very strident terms, he outlined to him what was the position of the US government in relation to the program over which he was presided. We met a very difficult situation. And some people had been urging us that you have been moving too slow with respect to this program. We move with deliberate haste in attempting to reset and recalibrate the relationship between the critical countries. No program, no citizenship program in this Caribbean would survive unless the US government sanctions it. None will survive because they have the capacity to stop every program. And that is very clear. When we met a few weeks ago and we had the get-together with all the critical stakeholders, those who were there, you will have heard what was the US government position. Yes, you are sovereign states, but we need not get ourselves all worked up on the fig leaf of sovereignty. We are a small player, insignificant at times in the larger global issues that are at play. And you can't say, as the former leader would say, well, I will give to Iranians because I am a sovereign country. What good will it be to do that when next day they slap another advisory on you? When next day your bank can't do any transaction because no correspondent banking relationship would be established. You didn't need to go there. As a responsible government, we set out to do what was needed. Reach out to these governments. Let them know that we had a fresh start in St. Kitts and Nevis, that democracy had triumphed, and that we needed reasonable time to, as it were, recalibrate the program, reorient it, and to present it to the people. And it took us a good bit of time going to Barbados, very often engaging the US government, engaging the Canadian government, engaging the British government, engaging the European government, until we were at a space where we think that we had them at least convinced that we needed to be given a reasonable chance. That took a lot of time. A lot of my time, the Attorney General's time, the Premier's time, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But that is what we expected we had to do anyway. That is why in our manifesto we said that recalibrating the relationships with the US and Canada would be our number one foreign policy program and initiative. And we began to work there to where we are now. And thankfully, for the last 5 months that we have been here, you're not hearing any of the stories you have heard about that made Kittitians and Nevisians ashamed of their country's government and ashamed of their country. We did the delicate and hard work of diplomacy to build confidence where it mattered. And importantly, because we believe that the lack of transparency was a problem, as the President outlined, we got the international firm IPSA International to come in and to help us to pursue the implementation of the programs. 20 recommendations IPSA put to the last government in 2014. Not one of them was implemented properly by the last government. Not one. We had to find the IPSA report. We had to re-engage them. We had to come up with monies unbudgeted to have them come back and to help us in refashioning the program and to give it credibility. Because it wasn't so much that the recommendations were so sophisticated that nobody in St. Kitts and Nevis could do them. It was you needed a brand name. It was that you have to show independence to those people who matter. And you took an institution which is among the top 10 in risk management and due diligence to come in to provide that assurance to the international people who matter regarding our program. And so I am happy to report that the reform program has started. And if the ICU was in intensive care when we met it, I am happy to say now it is in recovery. And yes, there has been a fall. But the fall has not been a consequence of anything done by Team Unity. The fall was a natural consequence that the program had become a blight or blighted by the U.S. advisory of May 2014, and the fact that in November 2014, Canada withdrew the visa-free access. And what that meant, that the fastest growing market for our citizenship was the Chinese market. And where do they want to go? Not necessarily the Southeast Peninsula. They want to go to Canada. Therefore, when you remove the greatest attraction, what do you expect? You must expect that there will be diminished demand. Indeed, if you go back to the IMF report of March 2014, the IMF, like the Chamber, warned the then government that it stood the risk of a most precipitous plummeting fall in CBI revenues if it were to lose its visa-free access. Because that is what the people are buying. The ease of mobility, the opportunity to go to a country which, if they were to show their own passport, they will have more complications. It's not really an issue of tax management, although that is one incentive. It was primarily a security measure. That is why you could identify the areas from which demand will come: the Middle East, China, the Far East, etc. So when you hear people who should know better said, well, Team Unity killing the program, how you could kill what is already dead? We met it in ICU. We have now brought it into recovery somewhere in medical ward. And we, with the faith and the goodwill and the support of those who are involved, will bring it to abiding heights of glory. And of course, we need eventually to take our country to the path in the long run where we don't have to depend on this as much as we now depend upon it, because it is vulnerable. Because even now, as other countries are getting involved in it, it means that the market pie will be broken up into smaller pieces. And it means that if we are not careful and thoughtful, we could have a mad rush to the bottom. Antigua comes in, cut the price below St. Kitts. St. Lucia comes, cut the price below Antigua. Jamaica comes, cut the price. And then what will be happening? We'll be giving away our patrimony. We are committed to the program. Indeed, it was originated by one of the members in the Team Unity Coalition. And we want the program to continue. But we also have to ensure that significant economic activity is happening outside the regime of the citizenship program, so that if the adverse were to happen, we do not find our country in limbo. So ultimately, that has to be the strategy. We are committed to it. We will go out and do the necessary marketing and repositioning of the program. Could we do that? We brought one of the top 5 PR firms in the world to St. Kitts to give us advice on this program. We had not been sitting on our laurels. We were not out there, because that's not Team Unity style, rah, 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 rah. We sit in a studied way, examine the issues, and in a thoughtful way, we come up with the solutions that are going to be profitable for the people of the country. And the firm came in, and the firm said to us, don't make a lot of noise. When you have concrete things to report, you speak to those issues. When the reforms have been completed, we will be able to help you strengthen and sell the program. And up to this day, we are working with that international firm. For the last 5 months, one of the top international firms in the world made available to us, and we were lucky today to have these services gratis. Made available by people who love our country. And we have been working with them as we try to position our program. We went to London at an international conference. We promoted the program. We say what the reality was in relation to our program. And we heard from a varied audience. Good to hear from you. We understand. And the service providers and other people locally must continue to say to their people, you have the best program yet. You have the oldest, and the reforms that we are making now will certainly restore it as the leader in good governance in the rest of the world. That is why I said we will take it from where it is, the valley of dry bones, if you will, and give it life again. I am confident that I can sell it when it is reformed. But how can I go and sell a program that has been tarnished? It's difficult. And even while we are doing that, we are pursuing with Canada the probability of having us restored again as a country which has visa-free access to that country. And we will get there. We are working on it, a deliberate, calculated strategy to do that. And so I want you to know that it is not just simply about selling passport for us. That way we become a cheap commodity like potato, like black pudding. That is not our concept of the citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis, a country that we love. It must mean more. It must mean to the holder an attachment to our country. A country that is doing well on other indicators. In education, in health, in foreign direct investment. Our country is a special country. And for some of us, it's all that we have. We and our children must say, of all the country, be they in east or west, we love St. Kitts and Nevis the best. And because we love our country, the man with the money must not just come and demand a passport because he can pay $250,000. My country's reputation is worth more than that. That is what we are working to do. And we have to let the rest of the world know. But we small, but we are a disciplined people. We small, and we have needs yet, because development is a difficult road to travel. Look at some countries like Guyana and Jamaica, and you hear people say they have lost 30 years, where Jamaica is now, and some indicators where it was in 1976. We say we don't want that for our country. We don't want that. We want a good country. We say we want to be the best small island country in the world, not just in terms of the economic performance. And even in the economic performance, we have to ensure that we are not just caught up in the magic of growth, because we have heard over the last how well we were doing, how much money was there in the economy. But the reality was that even amidst that, 3,000 people still remain and working at minimum. 3,000! Amid all the fancy statistics that you were talking about. When they come and they tell us we have so much money in the bank, and you know in the bank your money went down. Well, it's somebody else's money, not yours, in the bank. So much money in the bank, and yet the private sector cannot get money out of the bank. We have to go to the substance of what is happening in the economy. And it is substance this team unity government is about. It is because we were dealing with the substance that we could say that the country needed a fresh start. It was because we were dealing with substance that we could go and say to the people in McKnight, in East Barstow, in the 11 constituencies, a fair share, and the message resonated. We now have the opportunity to deliver, and I am confident that we will. With the support of the private sector, we will. With faith in God, we will. With the confidence of you, the people, we will. We can, in fact, make our country best in democracy. And the Chamber President led us along the path of good governance, term limits. Yes, we are committed to that, Chamber President. And all those things about electoral reform, so that we must ensure, however the votes are going on election night, no supervisor of election reserve the right to stop us from hearing. Good governance back on trail again. I want to end on the note that I am confident that Team Unity will deliver on the promises. And we are working very hard, indeed exceptionally hard, to ensure that the people, reasonable people in St. Kitts and Nevis, are not disappointed. We can't do it without the private sector. Indeed, we got good support from the private sector. While we were in opposition, I would hope that we will even get better support from the private sector people. Now we are in government. And there are issues on which, from time to time, we may be in disagreement. But at least we will take comfort in the fact that we would have listened, we would have tried our best to understand your point of view, and to absorb that in decision making. Ultimately, The government must deal with its mandate given to it by the people, and we will. I say thanks to the Chamber for the opportunity to address you. And I say thank you to all my fellow citizens and residents. St. Kitts and Nevis will move on to greater heights with your help. May God bless us all.